What is a dirty business tactic that you know, and everyone should be aware of it? Part 2. In France, it's hard to fire or lay off people, so, when big companies need to clean house a bit, they move the office to a new location, quite distant from the current one. In the process, they reduce the office size from 50,000 seats to 30,000, because they've estimated that amount of people will resign rather than endure a 4 hours commute. But officially, totally you still have your job if you want. We are not laying you off, but I need you in the office every day. Or you could resign, if you don't like the new location. Nestlé did that, and apparently it's fairly common now, for multinationals around Paris. Placing the most profitable items, at eye level, worst deal for you, and the best value for money items, in hard to reach places. Making you walk past all the items in the store, due to design, for example IKEA. Edit, this isn't dirty in terms of legality, but in terms of sneaky tricks, that aim to get more money from you. You want a TV, or $5,000, or base boat. Scams, at car dealerships. Generally, you get a flyer in the mail, that says, scratch off X, to see if you won. You always win the biggest prize, but when you read the fine print, you actually only win the right to spin some wheel, or put your name in a box for a drawing. The employees' friends and family always actually get the boat, TV, cash. Your win is just a tactic to get you into the dealership. A fun thing to do is waste the manager's time. Go to the dealership, prize flyer in hand. Find a nice car. One with all of the options. Ask for every dealer ad on the offer, and tell them, you don't want to waste time negotiating, you have cash. Talk to the manager, and keep going back to him/her. Insist on a test drive with the manager. Convince them, you want to buy the car, and get to the paperwork phase. Then, just before you sign, inform them that they haven't sold you a car. They've sold you on the idea of buying a car. Get the manager's card, and tell them, you'll be dropping their card in a hat, with other dealership managers' cards. A card will be selected at random, and that dealership manager will be notified by mail, in 4 to 6 weeks. Let them know, that the actual car you buy, may not be the one used in your promotion. Dish Network's door-to-door salesman will tell you that it's fine to use your parents' name and social security number for your account if your credit prevents you from getting service. This is not okay, it's identity theft. Fake reviews. I worked for a startup that had a sleazy CEO and got most, if not all, of their business by fake Yelp, Google, Glassdoor, and other review sites in our industry. CEO was a compulsive liar and had no morals. Side note, I left the company and shit went straight downhill, as it was a house of cards anyway, and I had a key position. The CEO ended up calling his business partner of 3 years and telling him that all the money was gone, and he is leaving the country forever. Then didn't leave. He still has the company open, with a much smaller staff, and can only imagine what he is saying to keep it afloat. Okay, done with the rant. It is easy to see fake reviews now, since they are usually a bit more eccentric and polished, and I have lost all faith in them. When my grandmother was in the hospital, her landscaper and handyman both contacted me to tell me she hadn't paid them, and they'd been trying to reach her and on and on. I'd already paid both bills from her account, and when I questioned them, they remembered, real quick. I know a guy who does pest control, who specializes in raccoon removal. He takes the raccoons from one house in one neighborhood, then takes it, and releases it in another neighborhood, then waits for the people there to reach out to him, to remove the raccoon from their home. Getting solar panels on your house by lease, or power purchase agreement, is a horrible deal for a homeowner. You save a small amount on your bill, but are tied to the agreement for 20+ years, while the company that actually owns them retains all of the tax benefits. Edit, it's not free, you pay for the power the system produces, albeit usually at a lower rate. However, the savings are just as good with many solar-oriented loans that require no money upfront, in which the homeowner retains the 30% federal and any state tax incentives. Edit 2, solar panels have no moving parts. The maintenance portion of a PPA is virtually negligible, as the equipment will be warrantied as is the workmanship if you just buy it. I will concede that it doesn't make sense to buy if you don't have a tax liability. Watch the ever-changing price of prepackaged food goods at most grocery stores. One day the price may seem to go down, but if you check the weight, it has also gone down. Snack foods do this constantly. I like buying These breaded frozen chicken breast fillets, at my local grocery store, been buying them for a long time. They were $11.99 Canadian for 908 grams, 2 pounds. Last week, they were $11.99 Canadian, for 750 grams, 1.65 pounds or 1 pound, 10 ounces. That product just went up 21% in price. Edit, as you/preparing to code pointed out, it's a 27% price increase, not 21%. Even worse. Mechanics and other car servicing places will often put many additional tasks/replacements on your bill, or imply that you should do things immediately. While many of their recommendations are things to keep in mind, often the tasks they are talking about are not immediately necessary, and can be put off for a while, before there is an issue. This in no means is me saying that you shouldn't regularly take your car for servicing. Took my car for an oil change/tire rotation, and they recommended some services that were immediately necessary based on the condition of the vehicle, and said I should have had it all done at 10k miles, and that now the tires are worn, and there's build-up somewhere in the engine, or whatever. I'm no mechanic. I said no, my car only has 7k miles on it, and there's absolutely no way it has all those issues. In fact, I was having it serviced at the dealership, where I bought it, only like 1 year prior. When I worked at H&M, we used to do some sneaky stuff with setting up the mannequins/displays. Whenever we had a supply of shirts that were really ugly, and weren't selling well, we'd put the ugly item on the mannequin, and it would sell out very quickly. This isn't necessarily the dirtiest trick, but it worked pretty well for pushing really ugly clothes. I was a waitress at a family-owned restaurant that paid me 10 cents more than the minimum wage. They were able to require me to turn over all tips that I never saw again, because they paid me over minimum wage. I think this is technically legal, but sleazy, nonetheless. I made really great tips, and it was hard turning the money over. It's also pretty deceptive to the customer, who thinks their money is going to the waitstaff, not the restaurant. That was 100% illegal in most jurisdictions. Managers are generally not allowed to take even a percentage of tips, let alone all of them. If you ever get a demonstration of a service from a company, they will always use their very best, most experienced staff, but once you've signed up, you might find you've got the dregs that they couldn't foist on anyone else working for you. Big Four accounting, at its finest. Send in the partners to show expertise and personality. Then send in a herd of 22-year-olds to do the actual work. Extreme markup for quick, shitty quality. Worked here for 6 years, but not anymore, so F it. Getting a large job done at Kinko's FedEx office? Don't need it for a few days to a week? Don't be a shithead and say, I need this done now, or ASAP. If you do that, it gets produced in-house and you'll pay up the ass. Instead, ask for a bid. If your bid is over $250, say no. They will drop your price by 10%. It's called 10 to win, as in they drop your bid by 10% to win your business. If your bid is over $750, say hell no. Tell them you wish to speak directly with their national bid center. You will get a call within 24 hours, and your price will be dropped dramatically. I've literally seen a $5,000 order get dropped to $750. They then send your order off, either to their CPC, Central Production Center, or they literally call another local company and they do it. Either way, the quality of work will be a million times better than if they ran it on their shitty Canon machines that break down constantly. One last thing, never print from their computers. If you need something small done quickly, at least have your files on a USB stick, or in your email as attachments, so that you may use their hit-and-miss cloud service. You're looking at minimum 99 cents per page for color, plus computer time charged per minute, versus around 50 cents per page for color, and no computer charges. Better yet, befriend an employee, and find out what company they send shit out to, locally. Look up their webpage, call them for a quote, and be amazed, as your price literally drops 50%, 100% markup, when they outsource. Edit, forgot to add, that the employee you want to befriend, will need to be at minimum an LPC, or lead project coordinator, and even then, they might have no clue where it gets sent to. You want the one you see behind the printing counter that seems to ignore you until someone else helps you. Edit again, took me a moment to remember, but since you're my friend and live in LA, you can skip befriending an LPC and go straight to complete printing. real estate gurus, who sell their courses online, in downloadable digital format, and say that we must buy now, since they only have a few courses remaining, and when they're gone, they're gone. How the F do they run out of digital downloadable courses? Do their computers run out of binary ones and zeros after so many downloads? Sounds stupid, but people fall for this ploy regularly. Jacking Google business pages. Basically, if a Google business listing isn't claimed and controlled by a competing company can weasel their way in and direct people to their business by, say, changing the phone number. There was an article recently about how drug counselors in the Philadelphia area had it happen to them. Their listing phone number was changed to an 800 number, which directed callers to an inpatient rehab facility in Florida. It was discovered when one of these counselors started noticing his patients suddenly not showing up. He called one of them and found out he was at this facility in Florida. People lie about salary, starting pay, raises, etc. all the time. Learn to play hardball. For a multi-million-dollar company, another $10,000 or $20,000 is nothing. My office had a lockdown on raises over 3%, and going into an annual review, I learned that my boss had lied and underpaid me for the starting position. He claimed they had a $60,000 budget for the position and couldn't exceed it. I found out the last person in the job got paid $75,000. So, I got an offer from a competitor for over double my current pay, knew they couldn't afford to lose me with the amount of work coming in, and slid my offer letter over to my boss during the review. They matched the offer, gave me a $10,000 bonus up front, and even cut me into a percentage of a business line. The meeting was awkward as hell, and it was difficult to do, but it's business. I work with a lot of different body shops, and in my area the big thing to do is to enhance the damage to customers' cars. I don't mean they try and negotiate harder, I mean they actively create more damage to previously undamaged panels, usually in ways that don't affect the function, and are hidden to the customer, in order to get the insurance company to pay them more money. In my area, while not every shop does this, I would say the honest ones are the minority. And it screws the customer over in the long run. The shop might promise that they will save you your deductible, but in the end you end up with a car that has unrepaired damage, or you have to pay out of pocket if the insurance company catches the shop enhancing. And the sad thing is, there is almost no way to know which shops do this when you pick a shop. Know the difference between a gigabit and a gigabyte. 1 gigabit/megabit/kilobit is only equal to 0.125 gigabytes/megabytes/kilobytes. A lot of services, like Verizon, advertise their data caps and data speeds in gigabits, so as to confuse customers who don't know the difference. If your plan has 8 gigabit data cap, then you can only really use 1 gigabyte of data. Likewise, your 100 megabit per second internet speed only has a peak download of 12.5 megabytes per second. If you find a competitor with a lower price, we'll match it, or give you the product for free. Don't you effing dare tell them. The above statement sounds like confidence. We know we have the lowest price, you won't find anything lower, but what they really want is to choke the other business out by undercutting them. And when the other business disappears, you are now left with the higher price and no other options. Just go buy from the competitor if their product or service is satisfying. I once got $20 off of a GoPro from a Target when I pulled up their own website and used that as the price match. That was fun. The average group memory is around 6 months. An outsource I worked for knew this, and so would ramp up the elite engineers right after signing a new contract in the honeymoon period to get the project work pipeline going. And 6 months before renewal would do the same. And in the interim, deliver a mediocre, just enough to meet SLA service, because it literally didn't matter. As long as everything appears to be getting better, the 6 months before renewal, that counts much more in your favor than offering utterly stellar service the whole contract span. This also applies to politics, and why there is an election season, and you'll see signs of good news 6 months before an election starts to come along. When negotiating with someone on the price of an item, if they know the real value, and you don't, you will lose every time, because you are drawing your perceived value from their negotiations. Edit. The example I was thinking of was in dealing with jewelers in Mexico. They have a price on an item, you can negotiate on the price. But the problem is, that they know the item's true value meaning, the reasonable price of the item on the wider market. They use a lot of tricks to bump your perceived value, high initial price, offering a special deep discount, pretending to have to go to the shop's owner, pretending to be put out, etc. But at the end of the day, they know how much the item is actually worth, and you don't, so, they will always win. I saw the same thing, when buying and selling magic cards. Someone would come in, with some cards to sell, but without a good appreciation, for what each card was worth. They never got their money's worth. I worked at a Nissan dealership, as a car salesman, and it was made abundantly clear to us, that all of the advertised prices, and sticker prices, were 100% bullshit. I even remember one of the managers telling us, a new commercial went out and referred to it as, a bunch of lies, that are going to get people in the door. Edit, I should add something, a few people mentioned, and I left out. Technically that price is real, but it's for a vehicle with literally zero add-on. Meaning no power steering, no power seats, or windows. Nothing but the most basic of basic car packages, and basically non-existent, because no one would pay money, for that travesty of a car. Story time. I bought a Nissan a few years back. I thought I did a great job haggling the price down. When I got home and checked my email, I saw an advertisement from Nissan Corporate, showing all of the factory discounts for the various models. It just so happens, I haggled the price down $7,500, which was the exact same amount, that the corporate discount was, for the car I bought. Those bastards at the dealership, were acting like I was beating them up over the price, when I could have just walked in there, with the email in the first place, and started with that price on the car I bought. I hate salespeople. Some telemarketers will ask if you can hear or understand them. If you say yes, they'll call back and say that you ordered their product, with a recording of you saying yes. I hate this one. I actually work in a legitimate call center, and people won't say things I need them to say to complete our legitimate business transaction, or hell even pass the verification process, because they think I'm going to edit the recording. I'm working with people who are already broke. What am I gonna effing steal? Buying a car from a buy here, pay here dealership. You put $500 or $1,000 down, they say you are approved, and you drive the car home. 2 days later, the dealership calls and says that they couldn't get you financed at that down payment and interest rate, so we need an additional $2,500 down, and your interest rate doubles. If you don't have the extra money, they take the car and your original down payment. This is in Arizona. This is an old gag, and new car dealers do it, too. A dealer told me, I can slap temp tags on this tonight, and you can go home and show it off to the neighbors. We'll finish the paperwork tomorrow. I said no. Others didn't, and got screwed. Not only are the terms of the deal and interest rate changed, if you try to back out of the deal, they will nail you. This is a used car now, we can't take it back, except as a trade-in. $3,000 for one night's use of a car, or take their price and interest terms. Slimy. Having a difficult time getting into the parking lot of a business you want to give money to, because the city is doing a massive construction project on the street, blocking that business? Yeah, chances are, another business has used their influence at City Hall to get that project started on the street, just to stifle the competition. Can't compete with that business's prices? Well, maybe you could buy the building that they rent, and then raise the rent for just them. Create a contract with a local distributor for the products that you and your competition sells, that will overpay the distributor to supply you, and only you, locking out your competition. Oh, and then you go ahead and stop buying from that distributor, and instead get the products from a non-local or foreign source, while keeping the contract in place, forcing the local distributor out of business, just like you did to your competition. When you list the per volume price on a group of similar items, be sure to use different measures of volume to obscure which is the best value. Sell some items at $X per fluid ounce, while others are $X per gram and $X per unit. Anything that a cable company, any cable company, does to its subscribers, the networks they are contracted to carry, and the cities and towns that they serve. I'm surprised nobody has mentioned auto renewal here. Edit, the worst for me has been SiriusXM. I don't mind the $25 for 5 months, but then they charge my card $120 for the next year, and I have to call as go through their sales pitch 42 times, before they actually allow me to cancel. I even tried canceling before the 5 months was up, but they still charged me $25 for one additional month. Fake claims of another house offer, with zero contingencies. We were young, first-time home buyers. We found a house that we loved and was in our price range, albeit the high end of our range, but in there, nonetheless. We entered into negotiations with the seller's agent. While my husband and I were thinking the counteroffer over, we received another call from our agent saying, the seller's agent received an offer from someone with no contingencies. They could pay cash, and sign that day. We knew we couldn't complete with that, and our agent urged us to rush over to our office to sign their counteroffer, and hope they would accept it, since we made our offer first. Of course they accepted, because there was no other offer. After all this went down, we were sharing our story with family and friends, and we came to realize, the seller's agency plays this card frequently. I wish my husband and I had been in a better place to fight their tactics, but we were buying in a location that didn't have many good houses in our price range. 2 years later, and we are pleased with our home, just not our mortgage. Strap yourself in, ladies and gents. I worked as an installation technician in home security for 5 years, and I can confidently tell you, home security salesmen are the shadiest scum on the earth. They work in the business of keeping you safe, so they already have a great facade to hide behind. What you may not know is that these guys have apps and databases that let them know specifically which houses to target. They have apps that have been specifically created to collect the ages of local residents based on private data collected, so they know which houses are elderly people, which are their easiest targets. The second easiest is those who have been broken into or burgled recently. They have an app for that. Basically it's like the Offender Finder, but for those who would be more susceptible to their tactics, because we've noticed a recent influx of robberies here in your neighborhood. Oh, you had a break-in last year? I had no idea. Let me come in and see what system you're working with. Never let them in your house. I've watched their team meetings, where they discuss the number one goal, being to get inside the building. If they do that, they think they've made the sale. They can sell you from the doorstep if you're truly interested. Tell them to come back, if it's raining out, don't pity them for being out in the rain. They chose to be out there selling that day and are counting on your generosity. The shortest contract you can get, with any major dealer, is 3 years. They'll try and sell you on 5 or longer, but just know that you have 3 days to cancel that contract. After that, if you cancel, you'll owe them the remainder of your contract amount, your monthly rate times the amount of months left, and they will collect from you, your loved ones if you pass on, if you move and don't want to take it with. These guys get paid at least $250 to $500 per sale they make. And I've seen guys sell 5 in a day. There's no motivation to actually help on that side of the industry. It's all a money grab. Giant companies buying each other out left and right. Company A starts up, and goes out and scores 1,000 customers in 2 years. They've met their goal, so they sell to Monotronics for a few million. Now you're with Monotronics, and you don't even know it. And a few years when Monotronics comes to upgrade your system, they're really just signing you in for another contract. There are even shady salesmen walking around, pretending to be reps from your company, offering to upgrade with a contract signature, but really just signing you to another company. They're gonna tell you that your security system is free, as long as you put up their sign in your yard, because they have a special short-time offer for advertising customers. But that effing system costs less than $500, and they're definitely adding that into your total contracted amount. The more devices you add, your monthly rate starts increasing. Why? More coverage? Nope. You're always paying for those devices, whether or not they're advertised as free. Oh, and those device prices? Bullshit. Have them show you a piece of equipment, Honeywell door window sensor, for example, they will claim cost 2 points. Those points are equal to $30 to $50 a piece, depending how much profit the salesman wants to make off of them. Go look on Amazon, while they're there, and see how much that whole $1,000 system really costs, and see how red their face gets. I've loved shaming salesmen who lie to unsuspecting customers. I've helped people who have been lied to renegotiate, and even told them to cancel if they've flat out been given 100% lies, which does happen, unfortunately. Just don't trust security salesmen, guys. They, and the company they make money for, have no interest in your well-being. You're nothing but another $500 to them, in an hour's work. TLDR, security companies are targeting you and your neighborhoods, and will say anything to get inside your house. Do not trust them. Buy and install your own system, from Home Depot or Amazon. You wouldn't believe how easy it is to set up a wireless security system, without a provider, that will deter any burglar who hears it go off.